Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Alex. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Be Sober podcast 2025.
I don't even know what season we're on. 14 or something. I hope we're
I
14.
have no clue. That's why I just stuck to 2025.
Yeah, we're somewhere in the world on. I think it's 14. I'm pretty sure the last one was 13. Anyway, we're here. We're back. It feels like it's been ages since we've done a podcast.
It has been ages since we've done a podcast.
Has it?
Yeah,
It was
it's
way
been
before
ages. We were
Christmas,
meant
wasn't
to
it?
come back the other week, and then
Oh, your
uh,
sound's a bit funny. Check your wire. It's clicky. Is that all
hi.
right? Oh, that's better.
I didn't do anything. Nothing changed.
Oh, it's definitely changed. It was like, it might have just been at my end. Go on, tell me. We were meant to come back the other week. We were.
Well, that's it. But we
Yeah.
didn't.
Was that my fault?
Yeah, it
Probably.
was. You didn't want to talk, but now we've got 4 minutes before our guests arrived, and now you want to talk.
Well, I wanted to talk about numbers, Lisa, right? Because I was having a chat with Ruth this morning,
Yeah,
and like we love 11:11. Yeah, we love it.
yeah,
You and
yeah.
me. I mean,
Our full office stops at 11:11.
well, you've sent that message. So basically, we've now got WhatsApp chats as part of our community for our members, and we've just created a message that's hopefully going to make it a little bit simpler for us to find out who are members and who aren't.
Yeah,
And you know what time you sent it and pinned it?
11:11.
11:11.
It's meant to be.
It is meant to be. So do you want me to tell you about what numbers are meant to be? I think you'll love this.
Go
I
on.
kind of already told you on text message, but basically, cutting a long story short, I've been waiting for a hematology appointment for absolutely ages, like a year,
Oh, yeah.
right? So I get this message saying we've changed your appointment. Didn't good old NHS didn't even know that I had an appointment in the first place. So they send me this code to log into a portal, and the login code is 1146, right? I get in there. The appointment is on the 11th of March at 11 a.m. My dad's date of birth is 11th of the 3rd, 46. Definitely him.
You know what? Right. I need to say this because Alex messaged me this yesterday. And when she messaged it me, I got goose pimples and I was like, oh my God, like he's always watching over your dad.
Oh.
What I'm struggling with is if you've just tried to tell me as if I've never heard it before. And all I kept thinking was, I can't act like this is
I know this story.
you're like, I know this story. So I found it so difficult then. And I'm thinking, do I pretend I've not heard it before and then go, oh, wow. So what? So
No,
what
I
I
knew you'd
need
heard it, but I
what I
wanted to
need
tell
you to
our
know is that
people.
like yesterday when you sent it me, honestly, I was like, that is like some good numbers. And I always know. I've dreamt about your dad loads,
Well,
like in the
this is
last
why I
few
mentioned
years.
Ruth, Lise, because I was talking to her about the whole veil thing that he talked about with you once and the five P's.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
trying to explain the story. And that day or that week, you and me together, after you told me about the five P's, we found so many five
It's
P's, me, you, and your mum.
just, I know it's so weird. Yeah, even my mum's connected. It's crazy,
But
isn't it?
they were in weird places, like on your step of your camper van and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think my mum was camping, and I'm sure she got out of her. I'm sure it was her that got out of a van, and it was there.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't remember the
I
full
can't
story, but
concentrate anymore. Our guest is here, Alex. I'm so sorry. I can see the name. I don't think my ADHD tablets are working today. It must be time of the month, but our guest is
do you know
there
what?
trying to come
Do you know
in.
what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna send her a little message because I've got and tell her that we'll be with her in 1 minute because I've got to tell you a funny story that happened to one of our BFit
Oh, I
members.
don't think
And
I can listen though
no, you
properly.
have. Listen, I'm telling her that 1 minute. There you go. I've just had
Okay,
one
let me
minute.
re-collaborate then.
Right, you ready? Take a few
Oh,
deep breaths. She's fine. She's not going
yeah,
anywhere.
okay. Okay.
So, this morning. So the part of the reason that I'm going to this hematology appointment, I'm not going to go into all the detail, but one of the things that led me there is, and one of the symptoms was this heart palpitation that I've had for years, right? There's a lot more to it than that. It's not just the heart palpitation, but we were having a chat then around, you know, how when you get perimenopausal, it's quite a common symptom to have palpitations. So this member, I want to say her name. No one knows her surname, Natasha, right? I'm saying it. Natasha, right, said that she's been waking up in the morning with a really strong heart palpitation and really worrying about the fact that she gets this heart palpitation. And then I don't know how long it's been going on for, but she's realised by putting her hand on the wall that it's the heating coming on. The boiler is in like
Oh, bless her.
So she hasn't got a heart problem.
I
Like a
actually
boil
really get
problem.
that, you know, weirdly. So weird you've said that. Because this morning our heating came on really, really early. And I woke up absolutely sweating. And I've just started my HRT again. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I was like, Robert, it's so hot. And he was like, Lisa, the heating's on. And that is what it was. So it's really weird that you've said that. So I totally get it,
I think it
Natasha.
was the vibration though of the boiler coming on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
I get
going through
it.
her
Like you can
heart.
hear it. Yeah.
How funny is that?
Yeah.
Anyway, she's not like having heart problems apparently. It's just the boiler.
Oh, well, that's good. That's
It
good to
is
know.
good. It is good and it's funny. Right. Okay. Let's let Rachel in now. I'm bringing her in. Okay. Now, Rachel, we'll ask her about herself, but she's got a book called Sober Mama. Sober Mama. Here she is. So there. Hi, Rachel.
How are you?
Good, thank you. You?
Yeah, not bad at all.
Good, good. Thanks for coming on. So, if it's all right with you, we're going to ask you to do your intro to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your backstory and what you do and a bit about your book. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course. Will we just start?
Yeah, we're going
go
for it.
Go
We
for it.
go straight in, Rachel. No messing.
So yeah, I'm Rachael Shepherd. I am a sober coach and I've written my first book, Sober Mama, which has been out since the 19th of December. It's basically a memoir, lots of horrible stories in there. And what I really wanted to do was to give like a timeline of what happens when you quit drinking. Because when I first quit, it's just over 3 years ago, I researched everything I could get my hands on. And I found loads of great information, but it was all in different places. And, you know, like for instance, on one site, I might find something about how you get nightmares in early sobriety and another about dopamine, but I couldn't find one source where it was all together. And I just wanted somebody to tell me what I was going to go through at each stage, how to get through each stage. And I just couldn't find the information. So I basically decided to write it myself.
To do it yourself, why not?
Do you talk in the book a little bit about what brought you to sobriety, or is it more from getting sober onwards?
Both really.
Yeah.
I started drinking when I was really young. I grew up in the north and everyone in my friendship circle started going out really early. We were sort of, you know, 90s Spice Girl obsessed female.
Sounds like us. You might have been one of our mates,
I've just seen this, that it says that you started drinking when you were 14. So Alex and I, exactly the same, and in the north. So we definitely get the park drinking, the
ladettes,
the white lightning. It was in our early teens, which still makes me go.
Same with I started on hooch, and then I can't handle the taste of anything peach now, because I used to do shots of peach schnapps and it's just awful stuff.
Peach schnapps, hooch, castaways, blastaways, Strongo cider, you name it. We'd done the range probably by our 14th birthday, we'd tasted them all.
The castaways, that was like a rich weekend. That if you could buy a bottle of castaway to get rid of the taste of everything else you were drinking, I thought I was like, that was and a chippy on the way home. I was in.
Ideal. Oh yeah, so I started drinking at 14, and by 15 I was nightclubbing. And my poor mother used to drive into Chester to pick me up after a night out at like 2 a.m. There was one occasion actually where I got home about 4:30 in the morning, and unbeknown to me, she'd gone out. She was driving around Chester in her pajamas, and I'd locked her out. She didn't go down.
Oh no.
It was terrible. But I basically was just a social binger. And even through my 20s, I didn't really, I mean, I always knew I had an issue in so much as I do know when to stop. I just don't stop.
Yeah.
I never saw the point in drinking for one or two. Like if I've had a drink, I'm foot to the floor. I just didn't see the point unless I was getting drunk. And I spent, you know, most of my 20s in that way. I definitely slowed down. Well, I didn't really drink when I was pregnant. Had a couple of glasses of wine with my first, and again didn't bother because I was like, well, what's the point? I can't get drunk. So slowed down. And then it was a few really grievy things that happened at the same time, really. My mum died very suddenly. I went through a divorce. And it was just like everything in one go just felt so much. And I'd only ever dealt with stress before by alcohol. So when I suddenly had huge amounts of trauma, it was just way more alcohol. And I basically decided to stop when I was mid-divorce, and I just started to realize I'm not even enjoying this when I'm doing it, and I need my head straight to make these major decisions about my life, and I can't carry on like this. Yeah. So it wasn't like a really specific rock bottom, but it was a horrible couple of years.
You know, you sound exactly like us, slightly different stories, but exactly the same. You know, like loads of things were happening that brought you to a point of going, oh, like enough's enough now. And we were both the same, drink to get drunk. I hated not, you know, if I was the driver, like I hated it because like the whole night was just about me doing a job.
Yeah.
Not me being allowed to let my hair down. Now I quite I love it going out sober now. And it's definitely a mindset thing, isn't it? Like how you feel about it at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it right that I've just seen on your website actually that you start blogging right from the beginning of your sober journey? Did that help?
Yeah, so one of the books I'd read was Claire Pooley's Sober Diaries, and she mentioned it on a blog. And I mean, much as I'm very all or nothing. I was all or nothing with drinking, and I kind of went all or nothing with sobriety, where I'm like, I could just quit like a normal person, or I could just tell the whole world I'm doing it and write a book about it. And it was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I kind of just decided to go really big on the basis that if I told a load of people what I was doing, I would look like an idiot if I then backed out. So it sort of forced me into having extended accountability. I thought there's no way I'm going to fail if I'm in that sort of domain.
So did you think right from the beginning, this is going to be a forever thing? Like from when you decided, that's it, I'm going to stop drinking and it's going to be forever?
Yeah. I think because I'd not tried to quit before, but I tried to moderate many times over the years to know that it was always going to be elusive for me. It was never going to be something that I could achieve. So I already knew that. And I listened to an alcohol awareness talk when I was about 25 years old. And even then I remember panicking and thinking, one day I'm going to have to quit. It was always in the back of my head. This is and I can remember this guy who's given the talk basically saying, you know, you can't quit when you start getting symptoms of liver cirrhosis, because at that point it's too late. Your liver can't tell you when it's knackered because it's got no nerve endings. And I've spent, you know, the next sort of 20 years thinking my liver's probably going to spontaneously combust. Like there's no way anyone
That's not funny. I'm so sorry, but these
No,
words.
It is.
And I'm so visual. I saw it. I saw it happening.
It's awful. And then weirdly, after I'd got sober, I read Matthew Perry's memoir, and he died the week after I read it. And it was so ironic, because when I was reading it, I was thinking, even after that amount of time sober, I was thinking, I wasn't that bad at all, was I? It really wasn't that bad. Maybe I would be all right. God, this guy's still alive, and look at the state, you know, he was in, because what he was putting his body through. I remember saying to my partner a week before he died, I don't know how this guy is still standing, genuinely.
Yeah.
It didn't that, and it was so terribly sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, even now, if I read about someone's horror stories, I think, oh yeah, well, I was never that bad. I'm sure by now, but the reality is I've got no idea what lasting damage I've done.
Can I just ask you then about, like, because it's fascinating that you knew it was going to be a forever thing, like right from day one.
Because we didn't, did we?
No, definitely no. If somebody had said that, it might have really scared me into thinking, oh my God, I can't do it forever. So what do you think the difference was, like, what helped you come to that decision, and how did you deal with that? Because it must have been quite scary. Like you've said ages ago, you thought, oh my God, I might have to quit one day, and saw it as quite a negative thing. So what was the turnaround? What's kind of made you make that decision?
There was a couple of things. I went on a very drunken cruise, and I honestly had one of the best holidays I've ever had. There's no point saying like alcohol ruined it. It didn't. It was epic. But I battered the whole time. We did this all-inclusive drinks package, and between me, my friend, and my dad, we had something like 600 bar transactions. It was just awful. And I was waking up anxious in the night. And on one morning, I had a panic attack on the cruise deck, which was easily resolved with a mimosa. But I knew it was withdrawal. And I was thinking, this is affecting me in the mornings now. I really want that morning drink. Obviously, it was acceptable because I was on holiday. But yeah, that was a real moment for me, that I'm suffering physical withdrawal now. And that scared me. And then the day I quit, the night before, I think I'd done 5 days sober. And then there was a bottle of red wine still in the cupboard, and I was bored. And I just thought, sod it. So I drank the bottle of wine, and I journal every night, and I journaled when I was drunk. And I woke up the next day and hadn't remembered journaling. But the last line said, "This does not feel good." And I just thought, if this is not feeling good anymore when I'm doing it, it really has become pointless. And I sort of decided, actually, this is causing me some major problems now. Because as much as that cruise was fun, it was because I was constantly drunk. So I never suffer the horrible anxiety you get during the day, because I was switching off at 10 in the morning. So I stayed in that sort of happy state. But I was a mess. Physically.
Yeah, so it didn't come without consequence, did it? So it was fun, but it had a lot of consequences as well. Yeah.
Yeah, massively.
Do you know, not quite the same, but it reminds me when towards the end of my drinking, like you're describing, I still was enjoying having a drink, but I would literally turn. Like, so I'd have loads of fun, be dancing, be singing. And then I'd find myself sat in a corner feeling sorry for myself, or feeling a bit bitter and angry about situations. So it was almost like what you're describing, but really literally for me, that I thought, I am not enjoying how this is making me turn into somebody different. And obviously those feelings were really there, but I was burying them down, and they were coming out when I'd had a drink instead of actually dealing with them.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really, by the end, I wasn't really doing any partying at all. I was getting my kids to bed as quickly as possible. I would have started drinking when I was cooking dinner. And I was getting through a minimum of a bottle a night, and at the weekend, sometimes 2. But I was also taking prescription morphine, and large amounts of it. I was taking way more than I should have done. So that there were evenings where during the day I'd had maybe 100 ml of morphine. That's a lot. I mean, that could kill someone that's never tried it, plus the wine. So I was regularly waking up on the sofa at like 1 a.m, having nodded out, at 9 o'clock in the evening. I just wanted to switch. I just wanted to switch off. I didn't even want to get drunk. I just wanted not to feel anxious. And until I started reading Quit Lit, I didn't really have any concept that it was the alcohol causing the anxiety. And I can't fathom this now. I think I've read so much Quit Lit. I've obviously written it about, quitting myself. And I don't understand, like, I consider myself to be quite a smart woman. I don't understand how I wasn't aware of this. And I think for so many people, that the narrative out there, I mean, particularly all the ridiculous articles about, glass of red wine's health and all this nonsense. You buy into it when you're drinking because you want to hear that.
You do want to hear it.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think you realize. I think it's because we're brought up with it, and especially like you said, around the north, it's just our normal. Nobody's ever said it's different. This is something that's baffled me as well, to be honest, Rachel. I've always gone like, it's like it wasn't an option to not drink. I didn't know you could stop, if that makes sense. It was,
well, you didn't know you could not start.
Well, no, it was just such a way of life. And it's like, you don't know until you know. And I used to think if you stopped, it's because you had to be an alcoholic. It didn't even occur to me that you could actually just stop or not drink.
A normal person stopping.
Yeah, but I see it now. And like you said, you're an intelligent woman, and you kind of sit and you're like, what? Why did I never know that? And then I look, and this is was a lot to do with my journey. When you start looking at our politicians, and there's a bar in there, they're making decisions, and there's a freaking bar in the Houses of Parliament.
That's why all the decisions are shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, but no wonder we didn't know, if you like. Do you know what I mean? It is frustrating. But I do want to ask you about your family and your friends and how they felt around your decision.
Well, I started blogging fairly early on, and at the time I was blogging, I wasn't aware of how much my dad was drinking because he still lives in the north. And it was after I quit that he decided he was going to take a sort of hiatus from drinking as well. And when I spoke to him about it, he confessed he was drinking 3 bottles of wine a day after my mum died, just to knock out the pain. Didn't want to get drunk. This is the only way I can get to sleep. And he did that for the best part of a year and a half. So it's a wonder he's still alive. But he's a really good example of how moderation can lead to addiction very, very quickly, because for the best part of, I don't know, 40 plus years, he had a bottle of wine on a Friday and a bottle of wine on a Saturday. That was his sort of deal. And then overnight he went to 3 bottles of wine a day.
It literally is an event though, isn't it? And that's where I always describe my drinking changed. It was an event that I couldn't cope with. So I drank more. And it wasn't a like, oh, I'm going to drink more to block this out, but drinking worked.
Yeah.
No, like a subconscious decision, isn't it?
Well, nobody sets off, do they, at 18 and goes, oh, you know what? When I'm older, I'm going to be an alcoholic. Nobody sets off that way. Everybody sets off as a normal drinker. Everybody. And it's just
amazing how many people believe they're immune to it as well.
Yeah.
Yes, so many people.
Yeah.
I think you find that when you tell people you've stopped drinking, especially for me, a reaction I used to always get was like, "Oh, I don't need to," and I'm like,
I get the head tilt. Oh, poor you.
Yeah. The head tilt. I've had the head tilt that I don't need to. Well, I don't drink that much, and I've said this before about when Olivia was at school and she told her teachers we were doing a podcast. And she said, they were like, oh, what about? And she said, oh, she does it on like being sober. And the teacher was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, apparently, according to my
was
cousin,
like so proud of it. Do you know what I mean?
Really chuffed. And apparently, according to my cousin, I had a little problem. Little problem.
Yeah. Well, they were knocking it back.
Yeah, with a glass of wine in her hand, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry. So carry on, Rachel. So you were saying about your dad is a good example, and
but my friends were all really supportive. I mean, most of my friends are quite big drinkers, and I think they're just glad that I drive them everywhere now. To be honest.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy going out then with your friends?
I do, but there's a time to tap out. I think I tend to lose touch with people around drink 4 maybe, where people start repeating themselves and slurring, and you're not getting intelligent conversation back, and they start finding things funny that aren't funny to you. And I'm definitely one for leaving early and getting an early night. I just, I can't fathom that there's a woman in my past that used to stay out beyond midnight. I just don't get it anymore. I'm like, no, thank you. I've got no desire to be jostled in a bar at midnight.
Do you have an exit plan when you do it, or is it just like, I'm going, bye?
Yeah. I just go. I think at the beginning I was really worried about that, but after going out so many times and realizing people don't give a shit when you leave, they really don't care when you go, when they're past drink 4, because they're not there to socialize at that point. They're there just to keep drinking, really.
My old friends didn't even care if I went. That's what I learned. It weren't that they were just bothered if I left. They weren't even asked if I went at all when I was not a drinker. And that
didn't even arrive there.
They weren't bothered.
It's what John Thompson said on our podcast, isn't it? That drinking isn't a spectator sport. You get to a point where it is no longer fun to be watching.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you want to be with them though, Lisa? Would you want to even be with them?
No, I was just going to say something that I've learned massively about myself, and it's taken quite a long time of sobriety actually, and it's why I wanted to ask if you enjoyed going out, because I actually don't enjoy going out. Like, it just does nothing for me. Do you know what I mean? I don't really enjoy being in pubs or like, but I've learned a lot more about myself in the last like 6.5 years. I think ADHD has got a lot to do with it. I think the reason I drank so much was because I was so socially awkward and anxious, and I didn't actually want to be there. So for me to be in a pub or a bar, I have to be drunk, because otherwise it's unenjoyable for me. I just don't enjoy it at all.
You know what I think about that though is like, you're nearly 7 years now. You'll be 7 years this year. I'll be 6 years this year. And I do think that over time it changes. Because I remember, Rachel, right at the beginning, me and Lisa went out. So she'd have been about just over a year sober.
I
And I'd have been a
remember not
couple of
even
months.
wanting to go then, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
It's
but for me, I wanted to still be a party animal. I wanted to go out. I wanted to dance. I wanted to do everything minus the drink. And I went on like that for a while. And I thought I did enjoy that. Even Power Ballad Night, which you thought was awful.
Oh, I hated it.
I really loved it. But I've realised now, but it's taken me a lot longer, that actually it's not that important to me. One thing I do get now, so I'll be driving along, usually in the summer with my music on, and all of a sudden I'll go, oh, I'd love to be out having a drink now. And it's not that. I want to be the carefree person that was dancing, and it's not actually the drink I crave. It's that let your hair down that I crave now.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of have tried to convince myself and that I don't miss it at all. But I think if I really dig deep, yes, I do miss the drama and the chaos that comes with, I don't know, feeling like you're being naughty or rebellion. I don't know what it is.
Maybe the rebellious.
Yeah, and to suddenly be this person that doesn't do that. It is very, very strange.
I get that. You know, like people kind of
Dublin photos, Lisa, you shared in the members group.
I know, you know, but I'm wondering, I think I kind of get what you're saying. It's like it's been such a big part of your identity.
Yeah.
And you probably had like quite a rebellious nature as a teenager. If you're drinking quite young as well, you're kind of known as a bit of a rebel, if you like. So I get that you kind of miss
want to
that.
be known as that.
Because I look at like, even now when people say to me, like, I don't know, or assume that I'm a bit of a goody two shoes. And do you know what I mean? I kind of want to go, you don't even know the half of it. I'd kick your ass. I'd drink you under the table. I would drink you under the table, mate.
There is an element of that. Lisa,
or I shock people sometimes, like my family or whatever. You know, somebody's like really rude to me, and I just come out with like my old rebellious self, and I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" Like that, and
I'll knock you out. Lisa shared some photos in our members group of me and her quite a number of years ago now. It's got to be 10, I reckon. Of when we went to Dublin on a weekend, and honestly, like, I don't get easily like usually things don't faze me. I'm just like whatever. And honestly, I felt my heart sink when she shared them. I was like, oh my God.
I kept other ones. I didn't share them all. I only shared the ones I were allowed to share at the time.
They're bad enough though, aren't they? They are bad enough. They're bad enough. And it's like, and honestly, my heart fell. I thought, oh, and it brought all these memories back of just how out of control the pair of us were together.
Do you know what I found really interesting about it, actually, is like, because we were always very different drinkers, me and Alec. We always went out together, or, you know, like, and you were very much more, I think, kind of out there than I was. I was quite, I'm a natural introvert.
Yeah, but you liked me being an extrovert.
Yeah, because it took the attention away. So it was really good to go out with Alex, because I'd kind of like push her forward, if you like. But even looking at them pictures in Dublin, and you can see on the pictures, like, Alex is so carefree.
Dramatic.
Yeah, like just carefree, these pouts and pauses and everywhere. And we're kind of here, there and everywhere. But for me, I can see me gritted behind I can see me gritting my teeth behind the smile, and I'm awkward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, and I know that I drank a lot to fit in, and them pictures kind of showed me that they reminded me of that I was drinking to fit in, even though I'd created that version of myself. And I want to tell you something else that I did that was really carefree the other week. Because I think other people might be interested in this. If we're talking about going out and dancing and that carefree, and you said about that, Alex, in the car. So I tried something called ecstatic dancing. I don't know if anybody's ever done anything like this. Oh my God, right. It was so cool. So me and my friends, we got in the car, and it was...
Who's this friend? Which friend?
It's my new bestie. No,
I'll knock her out.
So we went, and it was like she'd messaged and said, do you want to come to this with me? And the event was cacao, meditation and ecstatic dance. And in the moment I was like, oh yeah, that'll be really good. And honestly, all day I'm thinking, why have I said yes to this? Why? She picks me up, and all the way it was icy, snowy. We had to drive over the hills in fog, and she's going, oh, remind me not to come up with these ideas. Anyway, we got there. We had an escape plan and everything just in case, but we got there. We got served cacao in this lovely meditation circle, if you like. As we walked in, there was a woman flat out on the floor, right? And I'm thinking, right, this is all right. And I'm really open-minded to stuff like this anyway. Then the woman explained what we were going to do, and there was DJ decks there. There was only about 20 of us at the most, and she said, I'll guide you through the first few songs. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to be getting up dancing in a minute, which I found really hard, sober. Anyway, she put the music on, and she started off, like having a shake. So we shaked our hands and our bodies and was doing all this. And then I had a look about, and people were really going for it. Like they were like doing all this weird shaking. And I remember looking, thinking, oh, if anybody knew that was it, or like if you were there, Alex, you'd be like, what the fuck have you brought me to? But it helped me kind of relax. Do you know what I mean? Before I know it, I'm shaking it off. And then she's like, right, I want you to kind of move. So we moved our hands and our legs, and she was like, move your elbows. And I'm thinking, what the fuck am I moving my elbows?
I just want anyone who's actually listening to this to come to YouTube. Just watch Lisa on YouTube now. It's ridiculous. Come on.
She's going, and then she said something, and she was like, I just want you to imagine that the full room is a white canvas and you are the paintbrush. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, honestly, I got into this floor, and you can close your eyes, you're in your own space, and you're looking around, and people were well going for it. So again, you're like, oh, you know what? You can just do whatever you want. And then I'd catch Zoe, and we'd kind of give each other a little smile. And there was a guy going round like this. It was just the weirdest. Honestly, people would have thought you were in like a crazy house. I got really into it, and I got to tell you, it was the most, we came out, me and Zoe, and we was like, I just felt free. Like the most freedom I've ever felt since I've stopped drinking. Nobody gave a shit what I was doing. Everybody was so zoned out and in their own space.
Was it a sober event, or was some of them tripping?
That's what it felt like. I felt like I'd had drugs, but like the best drugs ever. It honestly, this is like, there were one part she was saying you can sit down if you want. And you know what? I remember going over, sitting down on this sofa, and everybody's like doing these really crazy dances. There was oracle cards you could go and have a look at and stuff. And I sat down and I thought, this is well cool. Everybody was in their own zone. Nobody was saying, are you all right? Do you want a drink? Do you need to get up? Like there was no pressure from anybody. And it just, that's all I could say. It just felt so freeing and amazing. And when we walked out to the car afterwards, they ended it with a sound bath. So you all got a mat out and just lay there, which was absolutely gorgeous. We got in the car and we were like, wow. And we were like, look at the moon, look at the sky. We felt honestly like we'd been on something, but it wasn't. It was just the energy and the cacao probably. And I felt like I'd had a full night out and a nap and drove on. Just thought I'd share that with you guys. So if you ever see anything with ecstatic dancing, go and try it.
Oh, I couldn't do it, honestly.
You've done an amazing job of selling it, but it sounds bloody awful.
Why would that be awful? I thought you'd rather go to a power ballad night with a load of people pissed out of their heads, a walking ambulance. There was a walking ambulance at that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the walking ambulance. Me and Lisa were going.
She literally had a high-vis vest saying walking ambulance. That.
It was true. It was true. That is true, because it got to the point where me and Lisa were pretending we had a siren on our head, and every time somebody fell over, we would go woo woo, the walking ambulance is coming. It really was just like Night of the Living Dead. I would rather go to something like organised like that sober, but honestly, I can't imagine. I don't know about you, Rachel. I can't imagine being able to let go to that degree.
No, and I did let go massively when I was drinking, and I think that's why
Oh, that's interesting. So for you, it might remind you of that.
yeah, I think it's yeah, that's one of the reasons I think sometimes you get that, well, for me, get those sort of pangs of sadness, because I miss that, the ability to be able to
Rachel, you've got to go then. You have got to try something like that. It was the nearest. That's the only way I could explain it. It was like when I used to go out, and that is the only thing I've ever missed about not drinking, is the ability to switch off and just not care what other people think. So it was a journey of, oh my God, oh my God. And honestly, it was done that well. And the people around were that batshit crazy as well. Like they were, and I mean, there were people rolling around on the floor. Like it was amazing. And when you see other people doing that and so lost in themselves, it somehow give that ability for you to let go. And the last time I ever felt like that, I would have been absolutely smashed. So that's why I loved it so much. And I think it's taken me 7 years, nearly 7 years to do something like that. But honestly, I'd highly recommend it.
Oh, it obviously really worked for you, if nothing else. I think for me, like as much as I do miss the being able to switch off, I think I don't miss it because that is always going to be a game of Russian roulette, where you never know where you're going to get fun and chaos, or drama and disaster and chaos. And
But you're not going to get drama and disaster ever in an organised sober event, though.
no, exactly. So there's a huge safety in that. I've actually got my my book launch on Friday night in London, and it's basically just close friends and family all getting together with people from the publishers. So we're starting in a sober bar in Covent Garden, and then invariably we'll go to a normal bar because I'm the only one there that doesn't drink. But it'll be for me, like that night out. I'm staying in London as well, so I'll be out for the whole evening. But the whole thing of that, I'm just excited to get all the people I love in the same room together. I've never had that, where I can get everybody, I'm so excited for it. And I would have never have been excited about a night out not drinking before. I would have just thought, no, that's completely spoiled it.
I get that. Yeah. I get that. What do they think about your book?
Who, my friends?
Friends and family.
I mean, they've been really lovely about it, but I think they're quite biased. So I've taken a lot of what they've said with a pinch of salt, if I'm honest. And it's nice. I've been getting quite a lot of messages from people saying they've really enjoyed it and found it funny and really liked it. And that was really important for me, to make it funny, because I've read so much quit lit, and a lot of it is very dry and very dark and very science-based. And whilst I think you do need some of the science, and you do need like information, and it was just so important to me to make it what can be a very dark subject matter super light and positive, and looking to the future rather than looking at all the horrible things you've done and the shame. I wanted it to be completely positive and hopeful and looking forward, and to have the ability to make people laugh out loud, cry, go through this whole sort of spectrum of emotions, and to really, I suppose, realize in those pages that life can be much better sober, where I think it's difficult to believe that when you're starting out.
I think so. Yeah, I agree. I think when you first start, I mean, I talked about similar. My journaling or blogging or whatever didn't last very long because I got bored very quickly. Hence the reason I don't have a book and probably never will have. But I remember in that first week that I was writing down how I felt about stopping drinking. And I think I phoned Lisa and told her this. It's like when you get a new red car and then every car you see is red. That moment you decide to not drink, it's all you can think of. It's all you can think of. It's all you can see. Everybody's decided to talk about wine on a Monday morning. And like, you don't notice that when you're drinking. No, you don't notice it.
Really, I found I couldn't think about anything else for that first month or so. Yeah. And then after that, it started to ease off a little, but I found it very all-consuming. But I didn't find it that difficult. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted.
Yeah, we were the same.
I'm not saying it's easy, But I think once you've got through that initial withdrawal and over the, you know, the hurdle of that first couple of days, thereafter that, it's, you know, it's all psychological. You're not going to go through any physical pain. When I came off morphine, I've been on it for a long time, and I decided in my infinite wisdom to go cold turkey and to not taper, because in my head I was like, I'm getting off it, that's it, I'm done. And it was like taking a walk through hell. It was the most harrowing experience. I felt like an alien had hijacked my body and was like fighting to get out. I couldn't, it wasn't physically possible for me to stay still for even a second. My skin was screaming. I was just in so much pain.
Physical pain.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's, I don't know how anybody gets off heroin. I genuinely don't, because that was prescription strength morphine. Heroin's a lot stronger. But coming off alcohol, conversely, you don't actually feel anything other than unless you're really physically dependent, mental itch.
It's a mental itch, it's a craving. It's interesting you say that. And I wonder whether with the morphine and the heroin, you know, and even alcohol, when you're physically addicted, you're in such a state of numbness when you're on it. I wonder if just being alive is quite a painful experience that we're all just used to. Do you know, like, do you know what I mean? Just like moving and the contact of the air to your skin and getting in and out of bed and all that probably doesn't hurt because we're used to doing it. But I bet if you're taking strong painkillers or something that numbs the sensation, I can see why it'd hurt. I don't know why. I can feel why.
Oh, you mean like every sensation would come back? Like,
heightened. Everything comes back too much for your body to deal with at once.
Yeah, that's
like being born. You know, like when you when you cry, when you're born, you scream the place down. Yeah, I bet it is quite like, oh, what the hell has happened here?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Ooh.
But then like the addiction to opiates, any kind of opiate, makes complete sense to me because they're lovely. They feel lovely. It's only when you actually come off them, it becomes a real problem. You know, there's not many downsides while you're taking them. You feel great. When I was on opiates, I behaved better because I basically didn't do all the crazy things you do when you're drunk. When you're on opiates, you become nicer. You feel like that sort of lovey hormone and oxytocin coming through. Whereas with alcohol, it kind of ruins your life while you're doing it. And then coming off it isn't that bad. So it was so bizarre to me, even 2 weeks sober, just how much better I felt so quickly. And that kind of realization, I've spent 25 years effectively self-harming without realizing that life could feel so much better without it. Here's me thinking that I've been using this poison for the last 25 years to alleviate my anxiety. Have I ever had anxiety, or was it all just withdrawal?
Did you come off both at the same time, Rachel?
Say again.
Did you come off both at the same time?
I came off alcohol not having any realization whatsoever that I had any addiction to morphine. I was taking it for I've got ulcerative colitis and I got joint pain. Unbeknownst to me at the time, when you come off morphine, you get joint pain. So every time I tried to come off it, I just presumed my condition was flaring again. So I kept taking it. And by the time I did come off it, I've been on it for such a long time, I was addicted. But it was only when I started reading quit literature after I got sober that I thought, maybe this isn't wise to be on this either now, and started looking at that. But coming off that was a million times harder than alcohol.
What do you think the difference is between, because we've got members obviously, and we've got members who, like you've just said, and Lisa and I are the same, found getting sober pretty easy. Okay, there's tricky moments, there's difficult moments, there's cravings, but all in all, it was fairly easy to come off it and never go back. And not, you know, I never really thought I want to start again. You know, it was more like, oh, every day's getting better. I want to come off it. I want to stay off it, and so on. What's the difference between those people then and the ones who just can or don't stay sober? You know, they go back. What's your opinion on that? And I know it is only an opinion.
It's difficult. I mean, I've had clients that have been sober for years and then come to me after they've relapsed. And what I found is the clients that relapse find it much harder to come back than the people who've done it the first time. And I think if you can quit once and fully invest in it and believe in it and know that sobriety is kind of the answer to everything get better, that you no longer see any value in drinking, you're never going to crave something you don't see any value in. Whereas people who relapse, I think it's very difficult because they've done it before, and then it's kind of massively knocked their confidence at that point. Like, I've done it before and I failed. So then when they do have another relapse, having done, say, a few days sober, there's a twofold problem. One is that they've quit before, so they think, okay, well, it's only one day, I've done it before, I can do it again. So that almost gives you license to do it again. But your brain is then set up, it just activates almost immediately all the same receptors in the brain to crave that dopamine hit from alcohol, and it forgets that it can live sober again. So I think it's a vicious cycle once someone relapses, to get back on it. And I think then there's a huge sense of shame and failure. And whenever we feel shame, we feel triggered. So it does become very, very difficult.
So you do coach now, don't you? You coach other people to get sober.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did you become a coach? How long sober were you after?
Less than a year. I think I was so confident in it, and I was so confident that I'd got a kind of formula that worked. So basically, in the same way that I've written this timeline for quitting in the book, when I was researching, when I first got sober, I was thinking, right, what do I need to do at each phase I'm going to go through in order to combat it? So loads of social media things were saying in early sobriety, focus on the things you enjoy. But I was reading that you don't produce any dopamine for at least 2 months. So you can't physically feel that much enjoyment because you're not producing any happy hormones. So what's the point in ruining all the things I love? And most of the things that I loved involved alcohol. What's the point in doing the things I love when I'm not going to feel happy anyway? I might as well just get productive. So I set about just reorganizing my life. And my kind of thought process was, by the time my dopamine comes back, my docs are going to be in a row. I'm going to have cleaned out all my kitchen cupboards and organized all my wardrobes and got on top of all my admin. Doing that then reduced a huge amount of stress as well. So by having this sort of method where each thing along this timeline over 3 months has got actions that you can take, it's just, I think clients find it really helpful, so that they can see where they need to go. It's not just, right, you've put down a glass, stop drinking, and that's that. It's a very proactive approach as to what you can do at each stage to combat it. And then it's really delightful that because you can see where you've come from, and then you can feel these things, getting better, you can see yourself moving along that timeline. You start to have faith that then, well, if I've gone through, I don't know, the nightmare phase at this point, then surely I'm going to go through the Zen phase later on when my dopamine goes back. And it's just like that belief then carries you forward.
Do you think there is an element of willpower then in the beginning?
Oh, it's a really difficult one. I'm not sure if I believe in willpower. For me, I think it's more whether or not you see value in it. So like I tell people, don't do dry January, because
we say that really. Well, no, we don't say that, but that's what I say actually, not we.
Well,
I don't.
We do, in the fact that we've always done it as an experiment, but we'll say more. Go on.
But basically by doing dry January, for me, you've basically told yourself, I want to get hammered over Christmas, and then I'm going to undo all the damage in January and make myself better. But that tells your brain that you're giving something up, that it's valued, that you need to get it all in there before you quit. And then you're going to spend January, feel massively deprived. You go through the hardest month of quitting, the first one, and then you get to the end of it and you feel like shit because you've got no dopamine production. So you conclude sobriety is boring and you go back to drinking, probably more. So it's so counterproductive. And I sort of say to people, if you're going to do dry January, keep going until the end of March at least, so you know what sobriety feels like, because you can't know before that 3 month mark. And it staggers me the amount of programs I've seen where they're like, oh, we'll fix you in 60 days. And you think, really?
It should just be the experiment. And that's why we do our experiment for 30 days. It's like the very last thing on our experiment asks people to choose, are you going to continue this experiment or are you going to go back to to the beginning, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is it. Yeah.
It's sort of just letting people know that it's quite a long slog. I expected that the only symptoms I were going to have were going to be in that withdrawal period in the first 1 to 2 weeks. I was convinced that was it. And beyond that, it was all mental. I had no idea how long it would take my body to recover. Like that first 6 weeks, I was napping more than a newborn baby. Like
yeah, you do go through a nappy phase. You're right, not nappies like pooey nappies, but napping. Yeah, you do.
Wiped out, like zero energy. And you know, and that in itself, if you don't know that's a symptom, you can feel really deflated, and that, you know, it can feel like depression. Like it's, so I think just understanding what your body's going to go through allows you to be able to combat it. And without that knowledge, I think you are focused on relying on willpower rather than focused on what that journey is going to look like. And you know, much like when we drink, there's a textbook pattern. You drink, you lose your inhibitions, your speech starts slurring, you lose your fine motor coordination, you eventually lose major motor coordination, you vomit, you black out. It can kill you if you know, end up with alcohol poisoning. That's a predictable series of events. And so common sense should dictate when you come off it, there's going to be another textbook in the reverse. It's just very, very long. And once people know that, it's a lot easier to say, get to the end of 90 days and I'll make my decision then. I decided I was going to quit for good straight away, but I think for a lot of people, forever is just too much, too big, too frightening. Whereas if you can just say, at least in 90 days, I'll know what sobriety feels like and I can make a decision about that. And I've never met anyone that's got to 90 days and said, oh, this is so much worse than drinking. I've never.
I agree.
It's like having a plan, isn't it? It's like the map. It's the map to see. I think you're right. If you can map out, you're going to feel like this about now. You're going to feel like this about now. You can have a plan to overcome it. And I do think, you know, it's all the P's, isn't it? About what is it? Piss poor preparation, something or other. Anyway, it leads to failure, doesn't it? Basically.
Yeah. I think it just really helps people to have hope of what's going to be at the end of this kind of gritty tunnel you've got to crawl through. Because at the beginning, you're kind of hands and knees in the dirt, the tunnel's black, and you don't know that there's light at the end of it. You kind of have to trust the people that have been there before to say it is, we're at the other side, you know, come join us. You know, and like, you know, just look at like sober group, like any sober group, find a comment from day 0 of someone saying, I'm delighted to be back here. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, find someone at day 90 who says, do you know what, I much prefer drinking to being sober. It's rare. And when you do get people who have said, oh, you know, I'm sick of sobriety, when they do go back to day 0, they still regret it. So like,
and I think often you regret sobriety after 90 days because actually you've not really changed your life then at that point. Because if you don't take action to make changes in those 90 days in terms of the activities you do and things you explore, I do think there's a next step of failure after 90 days. You need to evolve, really, don't you?
I agree. You know, there's people that have done like the year challenge and they see it. The word challenge for me, like I'm quite against it for when people stop drinking, because it doesn't have to be a challenge. It can be amazing and it is going to be different. But yeah, I've known people do 12 months and literally go out on the first day after 12 months and get pissed. And I'm like, what, why? Like, what did you not do in that 12 months? And it is things like reading the books, reading the Quit Lit, listening to the podcast and change. You've got to immerse yourself in all of the amazing things that sobriety brings, I think, because for me, nothing worse. Imagine spending 12 months thinking that you were missing out on so much when actually all the stuff you could gain in that 12 months.
It is absolutely bizarre, isn't it?
Shall we end it on a little bit about what you can gain and what you love about being sober? I think that'd be really nice to kind of.
And also where people can find you and buy your book, Rachel.
So my website is sobermama.co.uk. There are links to the book on there, but it's basically all decent UK bookstores, and Amazon. There's a load of other.
They'll also be in the bio as well. We'll put them in the bio for you.
Yeah. What was that? What else did you ask
So
me?
what can we gain from sobriety?
Yeah. What do you love about it? What's been your favorite thing?
I think discovery about what I want out of life. I signed up to work with a therapist. I paid to work with a therapist when I got sober, and I can remember her asking me, you know, what do you want from your life? And I couldn't answer. I had no idea who I was, what I wanted. I'd spent so long as wife and mother, I didn't know who Rachael was, and I had to go on quite a big journey just to work that out, and you know, who I am and what I want from my life, and become quite selfish, if I'm honest, and really explore that, and to deal with some of the issues that I had. I mean, I had a lot of residual anger towards my mum after she died, and I had to get through that to realize that I had to stay angry, because otherwise I'd have to grieve, and that wasn't a state I wanted to ever get to. And it was only when I got sober I was able to cry, and it happened after a good friend of mine was killed. And I was only about 6 weeks sober at that point, 5 or 6 weeks sober, and I was able to cry for her, and then able to cry about my mother. And it was just amazing to me that all of these emotions that I've been suppressing for years and years, and then being able to navigate those. And I found it with a lot of clients that they tell me the problems they've got when they come to me are never the problems they find out they've got when they're sober. Never.
It's so true.
The thing is never the thing.
The thing's never the thing. Yeah, exactly that,
You're
Liz.
burying the thing, and you don't realize what the thing is because you're burying it. But really interestingly, I reckon 80% of the people I've worked with are unhappy in their marriage, and they're drinking to stay. Basically, I need to drink to tolerate this, because to leave makes me a bad mom, and you know, all of that. I'm writing a book on single mothers and why there's such a huge stigma of that, and how to navigate getting divorced at the moment.
Brilliant.
It's such a minefield, but I really had to work hard on who I am and what I want and why I want it, and what do I enjoy doing, because all my activities I enjoyed were alcohol related. So you know, I totally turn my nose up at things like jigsaws and paint by numbers, and I've currently got a jigsaw over there and a paint by numbers in the corner, because they're actually quite fun. And until you try these things, you don't know. But yeah, I think the self-discovery, and actually probably becoming an adult for the first time in my 40s, if I'm honest.
Yeah. It's so weird. I literally did a paint by numbers on Sunday. I did a TikTok about it. And I was like, if anybody had told me I'd be doing a paint by numbers, to be honest, the numbers got too... Yeah, I'd be like, no. And I literally sat on Sunday doing it. I bogged it off because the numbers were too little, to be honest. And I couldn't see them. And I thought, I am not getting a magnifying glass. All I had to do these paint by numbers.
It's not paint by numbers, but you know, the same sort of thing. I think the things you rediscover or discover, I agree, Rachel, that is the best thing. You know, like we've talked about it millions of times, but I've returned to playing the organ, and now I've got a job playing the church organ. And I know that sounds like, my husband jokes, and he goes, you know, my husband jokes, right, and he goes, oh, I swear to God, like, you literally conned me. I met a wild party animal, sexy, really hot woman, and I've got a fecking sober church organist.
That's hilarious.
He says, I reckon you could be done for this.
You probably could.
Yeah, there's like a 13-year age gap between us as well, so he's really seeing it, I reckon.
Yeah, I bet he never thought that. This sexy older woman, now she's there at church every Sunday.
Church organ going, ooh, should we go out for tea and toast, darling?
Oh, that's funny.
I've discovered a love for I'd never done an escape room before I quit drinking, and I've started doing escape rooms. I went to Budapest a little while ago and just did them back to back. The ones in this country are all right, but the ones in Budapest are like next level set design. It's like being in a movie, and you sort of zone out. And I get quite angry when it's so funny because you take it so seriously. Well, I do anyway. I'm like ultra competitive, but ends up getting very angry when I can't solve the clues. But they're brilliant.
I love them.
So good.
Let me tell you about Lisa in escape rooms, Rachel, because this is funny, right? So when I first realised that I didn't really know Lisa at all, because I'm always like, oh, you'll love this person. And she's like, when she's met them, she's like, no, they're not my kind of person. And I'm like, oh, you'll love this activity. And she's like, no, I don't like that at all. Anyway, I once said to her, should we do an escape room? Should we do an escape room? She went, why? We're already out.
I struggle with stuff like that. I don't like it. Frustrates me. Like,
but it's like a sick sort of fun.
Yeah,
I like it. But she's like, why? We're already out. Why would you want to go in there and do maths?
Do you know what it is? I'm really good at like being in disasters actually, and thinking outside of the box but I feel like that should be saved for when there's a disaster, or when you need to think outside the box, or when you need to escape something. It's a lot of brain power that I think can be reserved.
It is. And it does bring out ultra competitiveness in anyone. And my poor kids have inherited it as well. I got them you remember these air hockey tables? It's like a mini one.
I'll play that.
But 5 minutes into it, there were punches being thrown, lots of swearing. It got nasty, but they've definitely inherited that. They've inherited that competitive streak.
Lisa's super competitive though, aren't you? You are super competitive.
Not as much as I used to be. I'm not as bothered about stuff like that anymore, to be honest. I'll
tell you, put somebody next to Lisa and tell her that she can't do it as well as the person next to her, and I'll bet you any money she beats them at everything.
Do you know what, actually, that's probably one of the nicer things about being sober, I think, that I found, or it's helped me in any rate, is to be, and I have been in the book, to be ultra vulnerable about your own flaws.
Yeah.
I've got no harm saying I'm competitive. When I quit drinking, I'd never admit to that. I'd never admit to being competitive. I'd never admit that occasionally I lose my shit and scream at my children. I've got a nasty side to my personality. It's there. It doesn't come out very often, but it's there. And when I drink, that's, often when I did drink, that's when it comes out. So
yeah.
I feel
Rach, we've just I remember once getting so angry. I was quite a few months into sobriety, and I remember losing my shit completely, and I was gobsmacked at myself. I was like, oh, because I'd been on this kind of like pink fluffy cloud, as you like it, and I was like, oh my God, that was just me, like the actual me losing my shit. Like, what happened there? It shocked me.
You don't remember when I threw a full cup of coffee across the room?
Oh, I do. I think I remember you telling me, and I was like, it's okay, I've done this. I remember doing it myself.
That was in sobriety. Like, I had a really nice cup of coffee, and what's really awful is it was a beautiful cup that my daughter bought, and I've still never confessed that I actually threw this cup. She thinks I dropped it. She might hear this one day. If she does, I'm so sorry, but it wasn't okay. And I got so angry with something my husband said. I literally just went, I ended up covered in coffee, but I didn't care. I was so mad. So mad.
I don't get mad as much though. Do you now? Like,
no, I don't.
I'm like a really, I think, chilled out person. Like, my hairdresser said it to me once. She was like, you are the most chilled out person that I've ever met. And I was like, oh my God. No one's ever said that before.
Try living with me.
No, I am. Honestly, Ash, Rob, there's nothing that really phases me. But
I don't get phased in disasters. Sam does. He's like, oh, this is awful. The car's broke down this week. Like, honestly, you'd think our world was going to end. I'm like, it's fine.
Can I tell you something that Rob did the other day? And then we will let you go. We will honour your time, I promise. But I thought it was hilarious, right? So he's going visiting his dad with his son. He's in Tenerife, and his dad had booked the flights back for him, so he just needed to book the flights going. Anyway, we were laying in bed the other night and we were talking. It was after I'd spoke to you about going away, Alex, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go away with Alex. So he was like, all right, when? Then he went, where am I going? So I said, Tenerife. And he was like, Tenerife? I said, yeah. And I went, anyway, it got up in a shot, and he's booked his and his son's flights to Gran Canaria.
Island.
I swear to God, I laughed my head off, right? And he was like, Lisa, it's not funny. It's not funny. Like, proper got angry about it, right? And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. He's fuming. Anyway, last night I went, is it too soon to have a laugh about this yet? And he was like, yeah, it is. So I had a conversation. I was like, you know what? You should embrace these like things. Like, you're a human. Stuff happens, and he's finding it so hard. Like, if I told his family about that, and I love that I've told the podcast about it, but if I told his family about that, he'd be fuming. He'd be like, no, I'd like embrace it. It happens. You're a human. But how funny is that?
That is
It
actually really funny.
It
I
definitely.
wish you hadn't have told him and he'd have got there.
No, it wouldn't. That'd have been terrible. That'd have been so bad. Well, it won't, because
got
he'd have had to
both.
check the flight on the screens and stuff. There'd have been too much stuff in. But yeah, anyway, sorted it out now. But yeah, that's funny that. But I think it comes from resilience. I don't know whether that is a lot to do with it. Because usually when we're at our point now of sobriety, we've been through a lot, haven't we? Like, we've all been, like you were saying, Rachel, you've been through a hell of a lot, and your book's filled with these kind of stories. But that helps us become more resilient. So I think things like that, just like, oh, whatever, fuck all that.
I think just having the ability to be honest about who you are, if you're brave enough to do that, then you start to live far more authentically when you stop worrying about what other people think of you. I care deeply about what my friends and family think about me, and everybody else, I'm like, half of people are going to love me, half of people are going to hate me, and I've got no control over that, and their opinion frankly doesn't matter. And I think sobriety has definitely given me that, and I am a million times more patient, and you can trust your emotions better. If I get really angry, there's a bloody good reason for it. You know, that is my emotional state telling me something's very wrong, because it happens very rarely. Whereas when I was drinking and anxious all the time, I was, you know, it's like impulsive and
unpredictable. You
know, easily angered. Whereas now I trust that emotional state. If I'm feeling really cross, then it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, I agree. I'm only ever cross when someone's rude to me. If people are rude, it
like with the trolleys.
Yeah, I got mad at work on the phone, and honestly, the people in the office was like, but the woman was so rude to me. It's like there's a switch. It's the only thing that really gets me, rude, and especially if I've tried to be really polite. If they're rude back, I'm like, boom, they're going down.
It is funny. Well, Rachel, listen, all the best with the book, and obviously enjoy your book launch. It sounds like it's going to be a really lovely event. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll put your links on the bio. Thank you. Yeah, it'd be
Will
great.
You get in touch when you do your next book as well? Because I think that it'll be fabulous and very much needed for newly sober women in particular.
Yeah, maybe we could get you back on to tell us all about how to be single, and we'll end up with half of Be Sober divorced by this time next year.
I was joking about that the other day, because I'd emailed some of the chapters to someone who I think might be leaving their husband, and it's interesting how those stories already start to resonate. The sample's going off to my editor at some point in the next week, so if I get a yes from them, then it'll be how to navigate.
I think I'm hoping that it's a big yes then, because I do think we kind of, I shouldn't really say this, but you can spot it, can't you, Alex? Sometimes, like, you know, you'll kind of go, oh, they won't be with them in a few months. Like, you just know.
We honestly could have like our own little betting game going on. We don't, by the way, just for anyone listening, but we could.
Yeah, you could tell. But no, it's been really lovely to meet you. So good luck with the book and the next one.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been great. It's been good fun.
Really, really nice to meet you.
And you as well. See you later.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh.